Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with the extraterrestrial, Charles Coulombe.
Extraterrestrial?
Mm-hmm.
As in from beyond this island Earth.
Yes.
One of the Space Brothers from beyond.
Indeed.
Here to help mankind into a greater, better way. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I feel like that last one is still speculative, but hopefully, yeah.
So basically, the League of Intelligent Planets has sent me here to help bring the people of Earth to find the way.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Citizens of Earth, look to the skies. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
You know, I went to college. You know that.
Say that again. I know you went to what?
And you know, I went to college in Roswell, New Mexico.
Yes.
You know what happens at that place.
What happens at that place?
Well, the real you is replaced. The replacement has all the memories that the real you had. And your family never know the difference. Really, it's like having the real thing, only better. Because the replacement is more socially affirming and more helpful.
Okay, I'm a little creeped out.
Well, there's no need to be creeped out. Think of a world at peace. Think of an end to hunger and conflict. Think of all the peoples of the earth in harmony with one another. Everyone seeing things the same way. No arguments, no disputes, nothing but concord.
I feel like I've seen this in a movie or something. I feel like this is like Age of Ultron or something, where it's like the robots want to take over because humans are chaotic or something.
Oh, I wouldn't say chaotic, and I'm not speaking of taking over. Humanity just needs a little help, a little push in the right places, as you might say. And we're here for that. I mean, look at all the might have beens in your history. Things would have been better just at this or that moment if it had only gone a little this way or a little that. Well, we're here to help make sure that happens from now on.
You always make me uncomfortable when you use the word help, that you're going to help.
Well, you see, help is always a good thing, isn't it?
Yes, if in theory, yes.
And so you look at the history of your planet, I mean, our planet, over the past century. Don't you think a little help really is needed?
This is I'm uncomfortable. Let's
You shouldn't be uncomfortable. You should be accepting. That's the way everyone should be now. Look, we've finally gotten one of our own in the White House. I admit that he's having trouble because the transformation wasn't complete. But he does have flashes of lucidity. And that's when his replacement is dominant.
You're talking about President Biden?
Of course, or Agent 23-6, as we call him. He, let's put it this way, when he uses the right fork and manages to tie his shoes correctly, that's when our entity is in control. The other times, I'm sorry to say he's on his own.
How do you take over?
Usually it's easier, but we had limited access. Fortunately, we've had one of our own that we've implanted in the White House who's not even a replacement, but one of us.
Who's that?
Kamala. Now, unfortunately, the Kamala unit has difficulties mastering your English.
Yeah, like what?
She doesn't really know how to speak it. She mimics it, but she can't really say anything in it. So it's a bit like hearing a parrot talk. We're working on it. Fortunately, the level of understanding and interest in the American population is so low, most people don't catch on.
Well, thank you for these insights. What should I call you?
Why, call me Charles. You always have, and I'm really no different in anything that matters from the original.
Okay, Charles.
See, now that wasn't hard, was it? I mean, you've got to remember, my transformation occurred, well, when my host was 17. So you've really never known anyone but me. It's not like I'm someone different. I'm just open now.
Okay, well, are you open to continuing the show, Charles?
Well, I think that I could. It just it's 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 just Hey everybody, how are we doing? Are we getting to the show or what?
Yeah, no, we're on. We started.
We started.
Yeah, we just
We
you,
just jumped into it or something?
you kind of blacked out a little bit, but we're okay. I'll edit it out. Don't worry about it. Just here we are, right
All
smack in
right,
the
well,
middle of the intro. Yeah.
yeah, I guess it does. Well, let's see. As far as the calendar, let's not forget that something more important than April Fool's Day has occurred,
Okay.
and that is the centennial of Kaiser Karl's death,
Ah,
which I was on Madeira for. And as soon as I get worthwhile pictures, etc., you can put them up.
very good.
But beyond that, I've got an important announcement to make.
Okay.
April the 3rd was Passion Sunday, the beginning of Passion Tide.
Mm-hmm.
You with me so far?
Yes.
Next Sunday after is Palm Sunday.
Okay.
That means in 2 weeks, it's Easter. Has this Lent gone by fast or what?
Gosh. Well, I thought we were. Wow. It has gone by fast.
Welcome to age. And I think what we should do, what everyone should do, is resolve, starting with Easter, to be as cheerful and as happy and as joyous as they possibly can be.
That is a good idea.
Well, I mean, made in the same spirit that you would make your Lenten penance. In other words, you've got 40 days of Easter between Easter and Pentecost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if we tried to be as happy during the Easter season as we tried to be penitential during that?
Well, I mean that makes sense, right? Because if you're suffering, and the suffering, Easter represents the end of that suffering, then you're naturally going to be jubilant.
Precisely. Plus, let's not forget something else. Traditionally, Easter Sunday was not just Easter Sunday. It was Easter Monday and Easter Tuesday. And the following week, the whole week after Easter, our Byzantine friends call Bright Week. And we Latins celebrated the Easter octave, so we had another day. So as with Christmas, we should have a period, well, not of 12 days, but certainly of 8, of heightened celebration. So revel in Easter the way you would revel in Christmas.
How do we do that? How do we structure that, right? Because it's like with so many things where you want to do, whether it's weight loss or prayer life, right? You need structure there. So how do we structure that?
All right. Well, first thing we do is eat joyful foods, lamb and ham and so on. But deck your house with flowers, Easter lilies and roses and tulips and whatever. Make wherever you live as attractive as you possibly can. That'll help build up your spirits. Make a point of making a visit to the Blessed Sacrament whenever you can. You know, if you can make a daily drop by a Blessed Sacrament chapel and say hello to our Lord, or even just go by the tabernacle in a church. If you can find them exposed, great. But if it's just a question of visiting a tabernacle, why not try doing that once a day during the Easter octave?
Okay.
I think part of the problem, though, that Easter has is compared to Christmas, is Christmas has a much better color scheme.
Yeah.
It's just all these pastels, you know. But Christmas has red and green, and it's very vivid. Whereas Easter is kind of quiet.
How does that happen? You know, like the color. Like, can we ever get off the pastels?
You know, I think we could. I mean, I thought about this. You know what I think would be the best colors for Easter rather than the pastels?
What?
White, but purely by way of contrast, and gold.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, definitely.
White by way of
But
contrast, because you couldn't have just gold.
but gold is kind of like what does that look like? Well, I guess so. Obviously, a gold tie for men in suits. I mean, but so
Yeah.
like, what would be the Easter outfit for men in that situation?
Well, of course, the traditional Easter outfit for men anyway was morning dress,
right.
which is, you know, if you could possibly do so and you could wear it at Mass on Easter Sunday, it's a good trick. The striped trousers and the cutaway coat and all that, which you would wear traditionally for a wedding, is what people wore on Easter. Uh, and women should wear their very best clothes. They're even new ones. Buying new clothes for Easter is an old tradition, and especially, of course, buying a new hat for ladies. Hence, you know, it's funny that Irving Berlin managed to come up with the first secular songs for Christmas and Easter: White Christmas and Easter Bonnet.
Interesting.
But both reflect how people actually experienced Christmas and Easter. And the Easter parade on Fifth Avenue, although it's kind of a freak show now, it's still a lot of fun. And it's not just in New York. There are several cities that have Easter parades. So, you know. Oh, and of course, I also would definitely suggest that sometime between Easter and the end of the octave, you watch the old movie with Fred Astaire and Julie Garland, Easter Parade.
I've never watched that movie. I've never even heard it. Maybe I've heard it through you.
Well, watch it. It came out, I think, in the 40s, I think.
Okay.
But it's set about 1910. And it gives you a real feeling for how Easter was regarded back in the day.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, shall we go on to the memes of production?
Nationalize the memes of production.
For the common good. All right. So first, Don wrote in, and he says, "Great answer on England question. An important reminder: we must always view history in context and through the lens of whose perspective it is being told. Cookie cutter history need not apply." So he's obviously referring to his question where he asked if the British government is the greatest villain in history. And Charles gave a good response. And so Don goes on to say, "The only reign that is without the blurred lines of good and evil is that of the Franchini's dominion over the Tumbler Tower, aside from, of course, the 13th floor and questionable food practices."
That's for sure. On both counts.
Speaking of, I wonder if Mavis from the commissary sometimes forgets to take the plastic wrap off the frozen pizza before heating it up. She's getting up in age, and the Franchinis do not want to be accused of ageism, so if the plebs of Tumbler Tower eat some melted plastic in their pizza, so be it. I'm not one to question the decision, lest we fall on their bad side. Long may they reign. Yes.
Wise move. I would just say, though, that there's a reason why you guys keep Mavis on. And I'm too polite to point this out, despite the melted plastic he rightly refers to. And that is that if you replaced her with a new employee, you'd have to pay that new employee more money. Mavis hasn't gotten a raise since, what, 1987?
We don't disclose our business practices like that, Charles.
Yeah, you're relying on Mavis to not remember. I know what goes on.
I don't know if I would say it that way, but I mean, we've...
Who would you say is the most neglected of the company, Mavis or poor old Rose?
I don't think anyone is neglected. No one gets left behind here at Tumbler House.
But, old Rose has been cleaning since God knows when. Do you think are you ever going to let her retire and give her a pension?
She can,
Yes. Yeah, she can retire anytime she likes.
She can check out anytime she wants.
She doesn't mind going out without a pension. She's okay. At 87, it's easy to get a new job. I know.
So Anne wrote in. She says, "I'm wondering how Officer Clancy's St. Patty's party went at the Tumbler Tower."
Oh, wow.
I mean,
just don't you know?
What happens in the tower stays in the tower.
Well, let's just say there was a lot of corned beef and cabbage, a lot of whiskey, a lot of Irish songs, a lot of Guinness. It was a good time. Was how even Mavis and Old Rose kicked up their heels, which it's kind of a funny seeing ladies in their late 80s get tanked, but it happens.
Yes. And she says, "How did Charles's corned beef brisket go over?"
Really well. The chap that corned it did a really great job. I mean, I was extremely happy with the results, and none of it survived the night. Even though there was 16 kilos amongst a bunch of us, it was all nothing survived. What was funny about it this year, usually we get lots and lots of cabbage and potatoes and so on. We didn't get that much this year, so there ended up being more meat than vegetables, which was fine, but it meant that we didn't do the usual Mondays, the day after stew, which you usually do with the leftover cabbage and potatoes and everything.
Right,
so we didn't do that this year. But it was really, really good, and it was a wonderful dinner, and I very much enjoyed it.
Good. Anne's final question, she says, "Oh, and Vinny, if I ever do decide to play Powerball and I happen to win the $99 million, consider Tower B paid for in full." Yes.
Oh, that's what we like to hear.
Yeah, Anne is referencing a question on the pre-show that she asked Charles if she won the lottery. What are some institutions she should give the money to? And Charles almost forgot to mention Tumblr House, almost, but a little helpful reminder from me. And
Yes.
yeah,
And I pointed out that with the plans underway for building Tower B,
yeah,
um, every donation was welcome.
absolutely. So
The Tower B, incidentally, is being done by an entirely different architectural firm than the people that did the current tower, the old tower, Tower A, as it's going to be called. Completely different, although it's going to look identical.
mm, yes,
It's sort of done on the government plan. In other words, you pay more, you talk a lot more about it, but there's no change, no difference.
yes. All right. Uh,
Down to a 13th floor that's a complete reproduction of the original, to the degree that they're able to reproduce the what was I talking about?
13th floor reproduction or something?
Oh, that's right. For Tower B, they plan to make an exact reproduction of. Sorry, what was I talking about?
We were going on to the next meme, Charles.
Oh, okay.
So
All
thank
right.
you, Anne, for all those comments. So yeah, a couple weeks ago we missed a week because it's just a busy weekend for both of us, and it was a rough one. So some of our patrons, a little bit sad. Connor gave us a meme here. Let's see. Where's the Empire of Brazil? Here. And he points on the map. Where's the Kingdom of France? Here. Points on the map. Where is off the menu this week? Here. And hand over his heart. Oh.
Squirt, squirt, squirt.
Oh.
Oh, poor little kid.
Mm.
Didn't get his off the menu for the week. Well, I understand how he felt.
Yeah.
They,
So,
and when we have to miss, ladies and gentlemen, believe me when I tell you, we're not happy about it.
yeah, definitely. It's always a very difficult decision if we absolutely like it, if it's impossible to do it. Um on to another matter, which we'll get into. William says, with all this talk about pizza from New York, Chicago, New Jersey, and St. Louis, there is one city whose delicacy has been ignored so far: Cincinnati. Move aside, pizza. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present Cincinnati Chili. Now, I know what you're thinking. Spicy beans with cheese and sour cream? No. This is a meat sauce with chocolate and cinnamon that is served on top of spaghetti noodles. This type of chili is most famously sold at the regional chain Skyline Chili, where you can get two-way, just the chili and spaghetti, three-way with cheese, four-way, onions and cheese, or five-way, onions, beans, and cheese. Having moved to Kentucky from the Pacific Northwest, I find it delicious, but apparently it's hotly contended as to whether it's good or not. Have you guys had some before? Have you guys been to Cincinnati? I'm gonna put a picture of the Cincinnati Chili up on the screen for everyone to see. Look how
And
look,
delectate over.
yeah, delectate and how delicious it looks.
It
Uh,
is wonderful.
yeah. So Charles,
All right.
yeah, you gonna weigh in?
I will weigh in. I have been to Cincinnati. My aunt, Florette, used to live in Batavia, Ohio, which is a suburb of Cincinnati. And I visited the Cincy several times, visiting her and the family. Um, and I had Cincinnati chili, and it's very tasty. Places that specialize in it are called chili parlors, just so you know. And before people turn up their noses, they should think of toasted Gosh, I can't think of what they are. Oh, the toasted pasta thing is from St. Louis. Toasted. I can't think of it. Not linguine. That's
Lasagna?
no. They're small. They're boy, this is embarrassing.
Tortellini, ravioli.
Toasted ravioli.
Oh,
Toasted
okay.
ravioli.
Wow, interesting.
Uh, yeah, that's big stuff in St. Louis. You might consider there's sort of a holy trinity of sounds weird, but it's actually good regional dishes in the Northeast. Well, it's not Northeast, but anyway, in the eastern half of the country. So going eastward, we start in St. Louis with toasted ravioli. We move on to Cincinnati Chili with its various ways of preparing. And we end up in New Bedford and Fall River, Mass, with the immortal chow mein sandwiches. Why are you looking like that?
I dispute your holy trinity of
What?
weird.
They're not weird. They're delicious.
Doesn't Minnesota have a thing too? I thought my brother went up there and they had like deep fried everything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially at county fairs. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. Deep fried ice cream.
Exactly. That's what he was telling me about. That is interesting to me. That's interesting. I could maybe see that, but I don't understand. Like, I'm confused with the Cincinnati chili. Like, it doesn't, like, meat sauce with chocolate and cinnamon on spaghetti noodles?
Yeah.
How do you put chocolate with cheese and onions?
Okay, well, firstly, the
Noodles.
chocolate. All right, the chocolate is really worked into the meat sauce. It's not separate. It's not like they stick a bar of Hershey on there. It's all mixed
chocolate in the meat sauce?
Well, it's bitter chocolate. It gives it a very different taste. It's not sweet chocolate.
What
It's
about
dark.
the cinnamon then?
The cinnamon gives it kind of a Middle Eastern flavor.
This is so ridiculous. Okay.
It's actually very good.
All right.
I like it four-way myself with with the onions and the cheese and the sauce. I don't care for the beans.
Yeah, it feels like, I like trying new things. I had poutine and I enjoyed it quite highly, but it makes sense, right?
Well, think of Cincinnati chili as poutine with spaghetti noodles instead of fries.
That's not even accurate though, because you still got the chocolate and the cinnamon.
You keep thinking of the chocolate and cinnamon. I tell
well,
you,
it's hard to ignore.
It's blended in. It works. I assure you.
Blended in. They don't just put a Hershey bar on top, but
no, they don't just put a Hershey bar on top with a cinnamon covering.
I mean,
no, they don't do that. It's all mixed in, and it's quite good. Also, they don't just use it on spaghetti. I'll have you know, they use it on top of hot dogs.
What?
Yeah. So you'll have a bowl. You cut the hot dog, sometimes two. You stick the hot dog in, then you dump the chili on top of it, and the onions and cheese, whichever way you're having it.
I don't know. I feel like some places, it's like, well, we can't do the same thing, so we have to have some novelty to really become world famous. So let's put some random items together.
All right.
Like, to me, random that doesn't necessarily make sense. I think that a lot of people are uncomfortable with, but it works. Is another thing that I've had is fried chicken and waffles.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
I actually do enjoy that. That actually does work.
Now, what about do you use syrup on that?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. You don't eat them simultaneously, but it just works. I don't know how else to say it.
Oh, so you eat at Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask you, how does a chow mein sandwich strike you?
I mean, chow mein sandwich. I have to see a picture. It just sounds. I mean, why?
What do you mean, why? It's the way it's done. Basically, you take a bowl, right? You take the bottom half of a hamburger bun, you put it in the bowl, you dump the chow mein on top of it, and then you take the top half of the bun and you put it on top of that.
These pictures. It looks like a holy mess, in the words of my mom.
It's really
It's an
delicious.
absolute mess. It's not even a sandwich. It's just like a. I mean, there's a bun on top of it, but it's everywhere.
Well, that's why you have it in a bowl. You're not going to lift it with your fingers, and that's what you're thinking. You use a knife and fork.
Well,
That'd
then
be
how is it
crazy.
a sandwich? I mean, I feel like that betrays a criteria of sandwiches where you don't need to eat it with a knife and fork.
Well, you do. In this one, you better. I wouldn't. I believe me, you wouldn't want to go through what you go through if you try to use your fingers.
All right, Charles. All right. Well, all right. Good luck with your holy trinity of weird food. I just.
So what you're saying is you don't appreciate new things. All right, how does toasted ravioli strike you?
Toast now, okay. Toasted ravioli definitely sounds interesting to me. I love ravioli, and I could see how toasting it would enhance a sort of flavor and have it be a different style, right? A little bit crunchy, maybe. That definitely sounds interesting to me. If I ever, where was that from St. Louis? You said?
Yeah.
I definitely would. That would be top on my list to get from St.
How
Louis.
about how about Hawaiian spam kebabs?
Why are you doing this to me?
I'm just
Hawaiian
curious.
spam kebabs? Did you just
Yes.
make that up?
No. In Hawaii, they take spam and they cut it, into pieces. They put it on the skewer, and in between the spam slices are pineapple slices.
Why do they use spam?
They love spam. See, during the war, it was the only meat they could get. It became very popular.
I feel like. And did it go out of fashion?
No, it's still very much. They've even got spam musubi now in Hawaii.
What?
Spam sushi, in other words.
What's that one that our mutual friend makes here in California? It's the meat in the Jello and stuff. What do you call that? Where
The
you
meat
put
and
all
the
you put all the
aspic. Yeah.
aspic.
Aspic. Yeah. Savory aspic. That's good stuff.
I mean, that's like the king of weird right there. That's just.
You say that now, but when I was a kid, any home that pretended any kind of elegance would present aspic, at luncheons particularly.
Sorry you had to go through that, Charles.
I thought it was delicious. And I'll tell you, on a hot day, really blistering hot Southern California day, quivering mass of cold, spiced aspic. Good.
All right. All right. Well, let's move on from the aspic. And are you ready for the state of the week?
I guess so. What is the state of the week?
All right. So last week we did
Connecticut.
This week we got a request from Alexander that you do Delaware.
Delaware. Oh boy. The first state. So called because it was the first state to ratify the Constitution. So it's called the first state. Delaware is an interesting place with a very peculiar colonial history. It's a small state. It vies with Rhode Island for the tiny state cup. It was originally settled by the Swedes as part of New Sweden, particularly the northern part around the town of what's now called Newcastle. but the Swedes were also in Philadelphia and adjacent parts of southern Jersey, and that was New Sweden. It was conquered by the Dutch, who also settled the town of Lewes, Delaware, which is in the south. And that all was part of New Netherland. It was conquered by the English. It was given to the Duke of York, and the Duke of York, in turn, gave it to William Penn. And so the state of Delaware, the colony of Delaware, was not called the colony of Delaware. It was called the Three Counties on the Lower Delaware. And they had their own assembly that met in the historic courthouse in Newcastle. But they had a separate assembly from Pennsylvania, but they had the same governor appointed by the Penn family, who were the proprietors under the crown. But when the Revolution came, Delaware separated from Pennsylvania completely, and as I say, became the first state. Delaware is an interesting place. It has only 3 counties. The north is the most industrial, and that's where the great city of Wilmington is. That's also the refuge of a clan called DuPont. And the DuPont family were the descendants of a French revolutionary emigre who fled the French Revolution and became a real master of things like gunpowder and so on, and laid the foundation for the DuPont chemical fortune. And now you have all sorts of DuPonts all over the state with lots of money and beautiful mansions, 2 of which, in particular, are open to the public as beautiful art museums, Winterthur and Namur. And these are up in the northern part of the state, as I say. Beautiful southern state. It's, believe it or not, it's south of the Mason-Dixon line. It was a slave state. It did not secede, but slavery was not abolished until the amendment in 1867 to the Constitution, 13th Amendment. There was Catholic influence from Maryland, particularly in the north. Newcastle is just southeast of, well, I should say Wilmington has Old Swedes Church and all that, because, as I say, it was first settled by them. Newcastle is very historic, has a lot of colonial buildings. The further south then you go into Delaware, the wilder it gets. Dover is the state capital, which is in the center, and there's a big Air Force base there. But the rest of it is scenery. Beautiful scenery, some colonial buildings, a couple of Indian tribes, the Moors and the Nanticokes, and just a delightful place, all told. Remote once you get past Dover. It gets increasingly remote. And they go a lot for hunting and fishing and so on. Their legal system is very antique in the sense of showing its colonial background on its sleeve. And, oh yes, thanks to the DuPonts, they've got very, very, shall we say, easy incorporation laws. So an awful lot of companies in the United States incorporate in Delaware.
Yeah, like all your credit card solicitations. You know, I noticed it. They always says Wilmington, Delaware. You know.
Yeah. And it's an interesting state. For a long time, as I say, the DuPonts ran it. They still have a certain amount of pull there. And I would say that a visit to Delaware is well worth anybody's time.
I've always wondered how they decided on the border between Delaware and Maryland, because it's like right up the gut of that peninsula that they share, you know, and it's just a straight line.
There was a great deal of legal haggling back and forth in the courts in England first and then in America before the current boundary was completely settled. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
Like Maryland, because it's so rural and so forth, you know what Delaware's state sport is?
Um, field hockey? I
Sa-
don't know what.
Nope, same as Maryland's.
Lacrosse? What? I haven't.
Jousting.
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 I didn't know states had a sport like that.
Oh yeah, every state has a state sport.
Where do you find? Where do you find that? State sport.
Yeah, look it up. California's is illegal in most states. You know what California's state sport is?
I just looked it up. It's surfing.
No, Gavin Newsom. Ha 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 ha. State
Colorado
sport.
has pack burro racing.
Yeah.
Delaware says cycling now.
Well, yeah, so it does. I'm wrong. But Maryland does have jousting,
Yeah,
and lacrosse.
And lacrosse.
South Carolina, North Carolina, stock car racing.
Michigan.
Massachusetts has basketball and volleyball.
That's fascinating.
Alaska's dog mushing. There's a surprise.
But not every state has a New Hampshire with skiing.
Yeah, White Mountains.
That's surprising to me.
Nebraska would be surprising.
I mean, because you would think Colorado would have skiing, but instead it has pack burro racing.
Yeah, that's true.
But it seems like it's only some states decide to have a state sport.
That's true. Just like only some states decide to have a coat of arms, so they all have a seal.
Oh, interesting. And New York is the only state to put baseball. That's fascinating to me.
Well, that's
and
because
that just happened too in 2021.
This is true, but the reason is that they claim that the birthplace of baseball was Cooperstown, New York.
That's fair. I mean, that's where the Hall of Fame is, so who knows, but okay.
If the tumbler,
Hawaii has surfing and outrigger canoe paddling. That's interesting. That makes sense. What were you gonna say, Charles?
No, I was just gonna say if the Tumbler House Tower ever becomes independent, they'll have to adopt a separate seal.
A micronation, or no? Just a state. Part.
Yes, a state, a complete state. That'll be good, I think.
I think that would be good. Yes. All right. Time for the questions.
Oh, so I've got to know what I'm doing. Fine, I don't care.
Yes. All right. Question from superfan Chris, who says, if Constantine had never recognized the church, would we still be in the catacombs? Even though it is 2022, what would those catacombs look like? In many respects, would it have been better had we never been recognized by Constantine? Would we be facing the same problems and issues?
Well, firstly, Constantine's recognition of the church was an inevitability that somebody was going to do it because the church just kept getting bigger and bigger, and it was well on its way to becoming the majority. So if Constantine hadn't done it, it would have happened sooner or later. But if through some bizarre means we had managed to be thrust back into the catacombs or stay there, it probably would look very much like the way our current rulership would like it to look. With Catholics unable to serve in any useful positions. I mean, it was, what's her face? Senator, not the old lady, the other old lady.
Feinstein?
Yeah,
Feinstein?
not her. The other, not Feinstein, the other one.
Boxer?
Yes, Barbara Boxer.
It's funny how you can say old lady and then
yeah, Barbara Boxer.
Yeah.
Yep, Barbara Boxer Shorts is her married name. But she got up on the floor of the Senate and said that no Catholic who believes what his church teaches should be allowed to be a judge. And in that, the little mouth woman told what she and her kind would like. No Catholic who believes what his church teaches should be allowed in public office as far as those witches are concerned.
Yeah.
And so, in other words, practically speaking, it wouldn't be all that different from what we have now.
Something you said was interesting to me, which was that it was an inevitability. If Constantine didn't do it, someone was going to do it.
Yeah.
For some reason, that reminded me of Solange Hertz talking about Columbus, and she criticized, I guess, modern scholars who said that it was an inevitability that someone was going to discover the New World. And she had personally felt that it was providential, that when God was going to allow the old world to discover the new world, it was going to be with the cross of Christ.
No,
And
I would agree with that, and I would agree that Constantine was providential.
Okay.
But the fact remains that it would have happened one way or the other.
I see.
Because it was part of God's design.
I see. Okay. Okay. Patrick has a question. He says, another question for the well-traveled Mr. Coulombe. Which shrines at Marian apparition sites are the nicest and least affected by the post-conciliar iconoclasm? For instance, I know that Fatima and Knock appear quite modern, but I was wondering if others retain the initial splendor they were built to have.
Charlotte looks very good. Lourdes, I'm told.
There was an apparition at Chartres? I just know the cathedral is very beautiful.
Yes, it is. But the cathedral was built at the site of an apparition. Long ago. Notre Dame de Chartres. Bagneux in Belgium is quite nice. Walsingham in England. And let me see. Well, of course, in those are the best I know.
Okay.
And the Rue de Bac is really lovely in Paris, where the miraculous medal was revealed.
Okay. Kel says, "Good day, gentlemen. I was listening to a podcast featuring the great Irish storyteller Eddie Lenihan on the topic of Irish holy wells. As I understand it, these holy wells are holdovers of previous pagan customs that over time morphed into Catholic holy sites. At these wells, people would come to receive healings through the intercession of the saint to which the well is dedicated. Thus, my question for Charles is as follows. Are these holy wells pagan holdovers that critics describe them, or are they genuine holy sites?"
Well, firstly, anything Catholic that had any sort of a prefiguring in pagandom, moderns, especially Irish moderns, like to call pagan. It's just Christianized, but really the whole thing is a fraud. Really, it's all a fake. Kind of like my accent. It's as much of a foreigner as I am myself. The truth is that holy wells like that are found all over Christendom. Ireland's nothing special in holy wells. There are a lot of them. And there were more before the deformation. So, no, and yes, they are real holy sites. People don't keep venerating sites unless something really happens there. You know, why is it that no one venerates the fountain in Central Park? Because there's never been a healing there. That's why. People aren't stupid unless they go into academia, government, or media, or all three. So I would take the notion of generations of peasants over the mouthings of any modern anytime.
All right.
Especially in today's Ireland, where 66% are in favor of infanticide and gay marriage.
All right. Gabriel has a question. He says, "Hello, Mr. Coulombe and Mr. Franchini. I hope this finds you well. I have a burning question that I think a number of other listeners may have, and I would be most grateful if you could help me with my dilemma. I'm an American and considering joining the U.S. Navy sometime after I graduate college. That said, I have my mental reservations as a Catholic and a monarchist because I don't want to swear an oath that I cannot keep. The oath taken by the freshly enlisted and the newly commissioned officers swears to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign or domestic, and I'm having doubts. How much loyalty should a Catholic monarchist have to the Constitution? Would the desire to see it changed for the better be disloyal to such an oath? Furthermore, the Sailor's Creed says, quote, I represent the fighting spirit of the Navy and those who have gone before me to defend freedom and democracy around the world, end quote. Because I agree with Mr. Coulombe's sentiment of democracy, as well as the fact that how Catholicism and the modern American ideology defines freedom differ greatly, would it be right and honest of me to become somebody who recites this creed? Thank you for your time, and if it doesn't take up too much more of it, please offer an Ave Maria for my discernment. God bless you both.
Let's do the Ave first.
All right.
Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Well, I really feel for you. I really, really do. This was a dilemma that I faced many years ago. At that time, I was able to make mental reservations that seemed sufficient to me. Could I do that now? I don't know. I don't know. A lot depends on what we mean by the Constitution. Obviously, as far as the supreme klutzes and all that go, it means infanticide. That's not what the founders had in mind. So, you might, if you wished, I suppose, regard the Constitution as simply meaning the established forms in the country. And certainly, I've never had any desire for their violent overthrow. But it gets harder the weirder they get. It gets harder the weirder the country becomes. So I don't have an easy answer for you. I wish I did. I wish I could just say, do this and your conscience should be fine. But know a few things. One is that, as with the Romans who joined, the Roman Christians who joined the army of the emperors, which was manifestly an unjust regime and implied the worship of the emperors, although the Christians would not do it and were often martyred. The Christian soldiers were often martyred rather than explicitly worship the emperor. It's also important to bear in mind that you do have a patriotic duty to your country, regardless of it being heathen. But at the end of the day, you can only be responsible for your own actions. That's why St. Ambrose, for instance, teaches that when the soldier is in what is, objectively speaking, an unjust war. That is not his concern as a soldier. His concern is fighting it as justly as possible, not slaughtering civilians and that kind of thing. Pray very hard about it. I absolutely hate to rule it out completely, and I also hate to endorse it. So it's very hard for me.
The part on freedom, I feel like, is doable, at least, because what is that, right? Like, we don't have, there isn't like
definition.
A sacred civic document, where freedom is solemnly defined. You know what I mean? They don't operate like the Catholic Church, at least not to my knowledge, when it comes to this matter.
No.
I mean,
well, and also the Naval Creed doesn't. I mean, it's not like it's a. The Naval Creed is not what you would call a really a binding thing.
I mean, because also, when with the topic of freedom, if you think about it, freedom changes on a daily basis, based on law. When a law changes, freedom changes, right? Like, you don't have the freedom to do this anymore. So it's just sort of a propaganda word, to be honest. Like, what is freedom?
Well, let's see. Now, I was never in the Navy, but we did have the creed of the American fighting man, which I recited. Let's see what that tells us. Code of conduct. I am an American fighting in the forces that guard my country and our way of life. I am prepared to give my life in their defense. I will never surrender of my own free will. If in command, I will never surrender the members of my command while they still have the means to resist. And then at the end it says, there's several other things about being a prisoner, but then it says, I will never forget that I am an American fighting for freedom, responsible for my actions, and dedicated to the principles that which made my country free. I will trust in my God and in the United States of America.
What do you think about that, Charles?
That I really don't have too much trouble with.
Yeah.
In the Soldier's Creed, I'm an American soldier, I'm a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and skills. I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself. I'm an expert and I'm a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier. Well, that's certainly, I can't really argue with that. I think then of one other thing. Now this, you probably never heard of, but we had it when I was a kid. An American's Creed.
Uh-oh.
What? What?
The wording of that is suspicious to me.
The American Creed. The American's Creed, rather. Here it is. It was, it's a term used for It was written by Dean Alphonse, and it goes like this: An American's Creed. The Freedoms Foundation at Valley Forge gave Alphonse an award for the composition in 1952. I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon. I seek to develop whatever talents God gave me, not security. I do not wish to be a kept citizen, humbled and dulled by having the state look after me. I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to barter incentive for a dole. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the stale calm of utopia. I will not trade freedom for beneficence nor my dignity for a handout. I will never cower before any earthly master nor bend to any threat. It is my heritage to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to think and act myself, enjoy the benefit of my creations, and to face the world boldly and say, this with God's help I have done. All this is what it means to be an American. Now what's that?
Well, what do you think of that? There's some lines that stand out to me on that. That's really, really interesting. I will not trade my dignity for a handout.
Yeah.
We kind of, I don't know if we, maybe that might be good for some people to hear.
I don't know. And then we have the American's Creed as the title of a resolution. This was the one I was thinking of. The one you heard was later in the 50s.
Okay.
This was the one that I knew in school. The American's Creed is the title of a resolution passed by the U.S. House of Representatives on April 3rd, 1918. I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, for the people, whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed, a democracy and a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies.
Okay.
A little bit different from what you've heard elsewhere, huh?
A little bit.
Well, I'll tell you something funny, if I can find it easily. What do you call it? The Scout Handbook that I originally, the Scout Handbook that I had when I was a kid was very, how do I put it? It was very, very strident about the United States. And it ended, the book ended interestingly. And this is the 1965 Scout Handbook. And these are the last words in it. Becoming a voting citizen. But whether you stay on in active scouting or not, what you have learned as a scout will be with you always. When you reach the age of voting citizenship, which was 21 then, you will know the true meaning of democracy and of liberty and will be able to carry out your duties to your country, obeying its laws, taking your place in the community. Be a thinking citizen, not a thoughtless one. Keep yourself informed of the happenings of the day in your own community, your country, and throughout the world. Learn how your country, your own state, your city, town, or village are governed, and find out how you fit into that government. Discover where that government is strong and where it is weak. Do your part as a citizen in the big task of upholding its strength and overcoming its weaknesses. But be prepared as well to do your part in the smaller tasks, in such everyday things as obeying traffic regulations, living up to game laws when you go hunting or fishing, serving on jury duty when called, and many other things. Find out about our political parties and what they stand for. All of them, not just one. Study all sides of a question that concerns the welfare of your community, your state, your country. Then take your stand and vote as your conscience bids you. Vote those people into public office you feel best fitted to do what you think is right. That's the way to make democracy work. But don't stop there. Remember that America is not a gift that is freely given us. Each of us must deserve it. We must work for America, live for it, and if the call should come, die for it. A chain is as strong as its weakest link. A nation is as strong as each of its citizens. America is as strong as you are. On hikes and in camp, through climbing and swimming and pioneering, you have developed your body into that of a healthy American, straight backed, strong. Your mind opened as you practiced observation and reasoning, as you mastered new skills, as you learned to go through nature with your eyes wide open. By following the Scout Oath and the Scout Law, you have set a high standard for yourself and have built yourself into the kind of citizen our country needs. As a man, you are able to step forward unflinchingly, take your place with our country's finest, and say with them, America, here I stand. My body strong to fight your battles, my mind trained to keep your democracy virile, my spirit true to uphold your ideals. To God and to you I pledge my service. On my honor, I will do my best.
I feel like that's my favorite one by far.
Well, that was what I was brought up with anyway.
Hmm.
And that, you see, the emphasis is on the country itself, not on the institutions to the degree that they serve that end. And that's the thing. To the degree that the Constitution serves these United States, to that degree, it's okay. To the degree it doesn't, well, there's a problem. And of course, to the degree that those who man its government are schmucks, morons, and, slime, that's the third problem.
Yeah, obviously, you've mentioned this before, where enemies of the Constitution of the United States, domestic and foreign,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like
problematic.
that's, I mean, nobody can really live like that in a sense because you just have to. That's a problem.
Because the problem you'd have today is that the president, quite sincerely, would not be able to remember violating the Constitution
Yeah.
or anything else. But no, I mean it is a tough thing. Remember that patriotism, love of country, is in fact a religious uh, virtue.
Yeah.
Uh, from the same source, I have something else which is sort of interesting. They have this imaginary hike of America, which is, I'm not going to read it, it's too long, but after describing all the wonderful things there are in this country, it ends by saying, our hike is done. We have seen America. It is vast, it is beautiful, it is rich. It is ours. Ours to know and to love. Very true. Toasted ravioli, Cincinnati Chili, chow mein sandwiches, and all. It's all ours.
What a beautiful thought to close the show on.
Well, it is all that weird cuisine. Well, it's at least tolerable because it's ours.
That's true.
And what can I say? I love these United States. And that, when one is a Catholic and a monarchist, people inevitably presume you have to hate your country. They're moronic to do so. Quite the opposite. If anything, my views have made me love her all the more. It's sometimes a hard country to love with a weird setup, but you know, it's the Pinocchio of nations. We never had the faith as a whole, so we've never really become a real country in the European sense. And contrary-wise, I love every country in Europe as much because every one of them has contributed to the United States as for any other reason. And by the same token, when I run into Latin Americans over here, especially Mexicans, it's like they were countrymen.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. Same with Filipinos. For that matter, when I go into a Chinese or a Japanese or a Vietnamese restaurant, I feel like I'm home. For a different reason. So, it's odd being over here in that sense.
Yeah.
And it's funny, one of our, I don't know, it wasn't a patron, but somebody or other who was in touch with us, basically accused me of abandoning the United States by coming over here.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, he called me an expatriate. Get it? Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if anything, although my stay here has certainly not diminished my love of Europe, quite the contrary. It certainly hasn't diminished my love of America either. And it's inspiring too when you realize that America has given some things, culturally speaking. I'm not talking about the 2 world wars. I get a little miffed when people yap about how well we saved Europe in World War II. Well, maybe if we'd have not saved them in World War I, they wouldn't have been so screwed up in World War II. But put that aside. The thing that I really like is the fact that a Bavarian king could have taken such inspiration from something in America.
A Bavarian king?
Yes, King Ludwig II. When he built Neuschwanstein, the beautiful castle, he was inspired by Sleeping Beauty's castle at Disneyland. You can see the inspiration when you look at the two of them. It's obvious one was inspired by the other.
Could you say that name again?
Neuschwanstein. It looks like Neuschwanstein. You look at it, you can see it was obviously inspired by Sleeping Beauty's castle at Disneyland.
What year did he live?
After Disney died.
Oh.
I hate it when you do that.
Facts don't care about your feelings, Charles.
Yeah, well, they better. Listen, let me tell you something. Facts got nothing on my feelings. My feelings have a right to be themselves, particularly on April Fool's Day. No, seriously though, we discussed Disney last week, but it is kind of interesting, even now, how the European and American psyches is still linked through culture and DNA and everything else. In fact, in some ways, we Americans are the most European of peoples because we're all of Europe dumped higgledy-piggledy. And how many Americans have half of Europe running through their bloodstream?
Yeah.
In a way that, you just don't have over here as a rule.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, to conclude with our friend's issue, I hope I've helped to clarify, but I really can't give you an answer. I certainly can't tell you what to do.
Okay. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Again, if you'd like to become a patron, you can do so for as little as $5 a month. Get your questions asked, get access to the pre-show. There've been very good pre-shows lately. Also, a lot of people go back and they watch all the pre-shows, so that's like probably 50 to 100 hours worth of content.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
well, remember too, operators are standing by. Be the first on your block to become a patron. Some assembly required.
Batteries not included.
Void were prohibited by law. Sorry, no CODs.
Sorry, no CODs. Void were prohibited. What was the other one? I can't remember.
Some assembly required.
Yeah.
Not an actor.
Not an actor. There we go.
Not an actor. But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
You mean free shipping and handling? To which
That's
your
right.
response should be, that's right, Charles.
That's right, Charles. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this episode. We hope you've enjoyed it. And remember,
I got a question.
What?
I got a question. I have a question
okay.
for you.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, boss.
Yeah.
What is it if it's Monday?
If it's Monday, it's off the menu.
And the store you save?
It may be your own.
God bless all. See you next week.